Tuesday, August 14th, 6:30 is called to order special public hearing, the public hearing in University Park. It's called to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Brooks. Trustee McMullen. Trustee Payton.
Here.
Trustee Oscar Brown. And Mayor Cover.
Present. Trustee Brooks did inform me that he might not be here today. I'm sure McMullen will be in there. Okay. The public hearing an ordinance adopting the budget for all corporate purposes of the Village of University Park, Will and Cook Counties, Illinois, in the lieu of the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of May 2018 and the ending of the 13th day of April 2019. Is there a motion? Or I mean, it's just a public hearing at this point. Yes. Okay, general public, seeing there's none. Okay, motion for adjournment.
Yes. No.
Any comments from the trustees before we do adjourn?
Maybe 10, 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, we'll wait.
Appropriate to make mention that we're suspending filming so there's no problem until somebody arrives.
We will suspend the viewing because there's no public here, and we'll wait until someone arrives. Thank you. Had no input?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Payton, second by trustee Wilson. Roll call.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Cover.
Both sides. Thank you. Regular board meeting revised August 14th is called to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Williams.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Brooks.
Present.
Trustee McMullen. Trustee Payton.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Okay.
And Mayor Cover.
Present. McMullen is on his way in. Okay. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? Ask for approval of the minutes. And what minutes is that?
Have you got the cover sheet, Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor,
I'm sorry, yes,
do you need the cover sheet? What do you have
I have that.
for the minutes?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't have that. Attached for your consideration and approval are minutes of the special meeting Tuesday, March 6th, 2018, regular meeting held March 27th, 2018, special meeting held April 10th, 2018, and committee of the whole April 10th, 2018, and regular meeting April 24th, held May, I guess another one, May 1st, 2018?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
the one from April 24th was continued to May 1st, so that's why I got
Okay,
April 24th, but it was held on May 1st.
okay. Oh boy, that was a lot. Okay. Motion? So moved. Moved by trustee Brooks. Your second?
Second?
Second by trustee Payton. Questions, concerns, comments?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
There's one for the March 27th
Okay.
minutes on page 7 of 8. The first paragraph and the fourth line down, it says that he reported that they discovered that TIF funds in the amount of $22,400 had been transferred without, and spent without board approval. That should be $22 million. Not 22,000.
Okay.
Typo.
Okay.
So it should be 22,400,000.
Okay.
Okay. Any others? Clerk details, do we have the right to, I know everybody was really busy and we got our packages pretty late. Do they have the authority to come back at a later date to make modifications to the minutes if they see any corrections?
Madam Mayor, with the exception of the minutes from May 1st, this board has had these minutes for almost 2 months.
Okay.
So that's
I'm just saying if anybody else, I don't know if they saw it or whatever. Okay. Okay, none others? Hearing no other corrections or comments? Roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Abstain.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye.
Motion approved.
General public comments? Ms. Diane Humes? Good afternoon. Evening. Yes.
Mayor, trustees. Good afternoon, evening.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, trustees, village manager, staff, and residents. My name is Diane Humes, and I come before you as the chairperson for the Human Services and Special Events Committee. I just wanted to give a report that I'm sure all of you know, we had a back-to-school fling on Saturday, and it was a huge success. We started late planning this event, and we were still working out some of the vital details just 10 days before the event. So with that said, I want to give a huge thanks and much appreciation to our village manager and Neva Jenkins for getting on your computers, your telephones, and making it happen. You guys got in touch with a lot of businesses, and they donated money, food, and supplies so that the village, the portion of that event that the village of University Park was responsible for, it went, we didn't incur any expenses for that. And just so you all know what we gave out at the event, we gave out 185 book bags with school supplies, 100 hamburgers that were prepared by the golf course, 200 hot dogs, also prepared by the golf course, 200 bags of chips, 4 cases of water. We purchased 450 pops, and over half of those were consumed. And Trustee Paula Wilson and her family donated fresh popcorn that her mom kept popping for 3 straight hours. So I just really wanted to, again, thank you guys, especially the village manager, Neva, for everything you did to make that a success. And I also want to thank the mayor because you were very instrumental from beginning to end. You were so determined to have that event. And I remember being in those meetings and you kept talking about back in the day, we used to do this and we used to do that. And I wasn't around, so, you know, I didn't know what we did back in the day. But one thing that impressed me so much about you was that you said that this event was going to happen, even though we were late getting started, and you wanted it done, and you wanted it done right, because the residents deserved it. And you said that on many occasions, and as a resident, I appreciate that, because you did everything you could to make it happen. And I also want to thank Gary Richardson and Public Works. You guys came through for us as well. You did an excellent job. You gave us everything that we needed, and you didn't complain when we had those last minute changes. So to you and your staff, we thank you. Thank you to the fire department for coming out and bringing the trucks out for the kids to tour, and I also saw some parents in there, so we want to thank you guys for being a part of the event. Thank you to all of our family and friends who volunteered. We really needed your help, and you really came through for us. I want to thank all the trustees, the village clerk, and the staff who came out to support us. And last but not least, I want to thank the Human Services and Special Events Committee. They were fabulous. And in between all the kikiing and the shenanigans and the meetings, we came up with a plan. Our trustee liaison, Paula Wilson, thank you for everything you did to make it happen. But we came up with a plan, and we were really happy about the results. So, lastly, I just want to say to our elected officials, to the Village and University Park, the Human Services and Special Events Committee, we are dedicated and determined to work together for this committee. And we are planning an event every month from now on in hopes that we can bring the community together and that people can come out and enjoy an environment of togetherness for the community, and hopefully other people will be inspired to get involved and help this community grow. So thank you.
Thank you, and we thank you for taking that chairperson position and doing well too. Thank you all. I would like to thank, well, she's giving the kudos out. Trustee Brooks was at a game and he came back and he thought he was going to leave, but he got rung in on the part of passing out the books. And I said, oh, he got on the assembly line. And we thank our trustee Milton Payton, which was a part of Human Service Special Events again, too. And everyone was really good. And Trustee Williams had to keep going into the cooling section. It was a lot for both of us. And she went in, but she was there from the beginning to the end. And Trustee Curtis, he did come late, but he still came. So those are trustees, and that's good for the community to see their elected officials involved and knowing that they care. And they roll up their sleeves to do in and everything. I think Trustee Wilson almost passed out for a little throat game that she had going with her mom and her son. So again, it's a family affair, and I really, 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 really appreciate everything. And I like seeing this going on. And they do have a calendar that we brought in back in the day that Trustee Milton Payton and I used to do a long time ago with. It's a passion that's deep in my heart, very, very deep. So we'll make sure anything you can do, you need from us, we're gonna always be there. So again, thank you. And you'll be, have a meeting this Saturday, as a matter of fact, correct? Okay, anyone that's still interested, we still have a little openings for our subcommittees. Thank you. Mr. Johnny Rice. Mr. Johnny Rice. I'm sorry, I should know that by heart. Mr. Rice.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I come here to talk about the closing of Coretta Scott King. I wasn't at that meeting, but I looked at it on the computer, and one of the former trustees of the school board came up and said that they were being brave. I have a lot of respect for that former member, but I disagree with that. This is white privilege, and at its best, Trumpism. We had came up with an agreement. I was there when we had came up with an agreement, and we're going to build a new school for Crete because they need one. We all agreed that they needed one. And we also agreed that they were going to do maintenance on Talon. Okay? Even though some people said it was too small, we just need to destroy it and ship them over there, have them bus to Monique. But we all agreed and said that that wasn't a good idea. So we agreed that was part of our agreement, and that they were going going to increase the electrical capacity of Coretta Scott King. That's one of the things we agreed with. And what happened was totally not what we agreed upon. Okay? Them talking about giving this to us as a pre-K or a building a pre-K to third grade, no, that was never what part of our agreement, what we had talked about. What we wanted them to do was to have enough money to build the curriculum at the high school. I talked about putting solar panels on it, having a windmill for electricity, to increase the curriculum, so that they would be better prepared for the 21st century. Not building these 1,500 student schools, elementary schools. That was nothing that we talked about. What they did bring it up. They did bring up about closing Coretta Scott King, but I said no way. Okay, you can't close the #1 school in the district, the 29th elementary school in the county. Now, my personal opinion is these board members, these school board members, shouldn't be anonymous. Their names should be put on a sign with closing Coretta Scott King, #1 school in the district, 29th in Will County, and put the ones who said yes and the ones who said no on it. So these people will not be anonymous. They shouldn't hide behind their anonymity, that people don't know them. I'm going to be at the next school board meeting, and I would like to have as many people here to join me, but I plan on being there. And what they're not telling you is this bond, it's going to increase it between our tax $65 to $85. That's almost $1,000. And that's what, like I said, that's what we agreed upon, was the increase in curriculum to make it better for the students and make it for the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rice. There is a hearing, public hearing is tonight, I know. You know that. You're aware of that.
Public hearing where?
At the school?
Tonight?
Yeah, it was tonight. Right now. It's still going. Yeah, that's okay. Well, the 21st is the meeting that you're talking about, and I intend to be there as well. And I'd like to thank Mr. Rice for meeting, he and his wife and his family, along with Neva Jenkins and myself, that met with the superintendent and the interim superintendent last week. And she did say that that plan needs to be scrapped and revisited. So good luck to her. But we're going to hope that that works out and she does revisit it and look at it, because she said there's some things that she questioned as well. So hopefully she went back and had a meeting with her people and they talked about it.
Is this meeting going on right now?
Yes, it is. At the school.
I would like to stay here.
That's okay, I understand. You can go. No worries. That's okay.
Mr. Rice, for anybody, Mr. Rice, for you to stop me on my run in the evening to tell me about this school closing, to tell us how we should react to this, and your very common sense about this. Very common sense, I really appreciate it. We all do.
I apologize, but I know how much you like.
Stop me.
Thank you so much. And as I was saying, and they came to visit us, and I did ask the superintendent and the interim, would they be kind enough to come to University Park and hold a meeting and let us know what's going on, just for our residents. And she did agree. So hopefully it will be very soon rather than later. Okay, Ms. Deborah Strauss. And the next one after that will be Ms. Wayne.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. Oh, wow, okay. And all other present.
Good evening.
Okay. I don't want no injuries, okay. Too long. First off, Diane, thanks for the report that you gave. Unfortunately, I missed it because I'm an advocate of voter registration, and I would have popped up and offered services. But the report said I missed a good one, okay? Unfortunate, I missed the event Saturday because a resident of our community, Henry Wright, I think some of you know Henry. He's an ex-employee of the village. His dad passed. So I was at that service. And I think we should all hopefully extend condolences to Henry's family at our convenience. And the one thing I did want to mention is I picked up the directory at the door on the table, and I think that's great. That directory is somewhere here in my, okay. This community directory is something worthwhile, very much so. And in all due respect, I did attend First Baptist Church, their back to school festival. As a suggestion maybe for Human Services, if it's only 5 churches in this community, if they can be collaborative efforts, I think that would be great because everybody's striving for the same effort. So just as a suggestion, hopefully, everybody's got budget concerns, everybody, okay? I've gotten to where I wear pants with no pockets because I don't even have anything to put in them. So, Gary, I enjoyed the seating arrangement. Just want to bring that out because he also makes sure from the diagram that he does excellent seating arrangements for the University Park Senior Citizen Annual Fun Day event, which will be August 29th from 12 to 4 right here at 90 Town Center. And if I can approach, I'd like to extend, it makes me feel like Oprah when I extend invites to everybody. So may I approach?
Please, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking, too.
Unfortunately for him, as village manager, he's had to coordinate some things with me. So, just want to make sure everybody is ready about it. I'm trying to get back there. Thank you for the door.
It's always.
We'll be contacting BB and fire, just like we're contacting BBW. So, thank you for the indulgence to everyone. Hope to make sure we see you on August 29th, right here. And of course, under 55 years old, free of charge. Walk on in the door to enjoy. But if you're under 55...
Over 55 or under?
Thank you.
Okay.
If you over, because if you're under 55, you need to bring 5. And we always accept out-of-pocket donations. Thank you so much.
Oh, and by the way, I wish one day we could make it on a Friday or a Saturday because 90% of the people up here work and we can hardly ever make that.
Thank you for the suggestion.
So on the noon especially,
Yes, ma'am.
you could have more people that can, and thank you for your suggestion, but that was one of the recaps that the Human Service Special Events Committee already discussed, that they were going to send a letter. Well, I said that we were going to send a letter, and they all agreed, to each and every person that does back to school. So instead of giving 200 or 100, we can give 2,000 backpacks out. And the plan is next year to have a big parade, go back to the family fling and a carnival.
Well, you know, I did family fling like 19 years.
I know.
So
I was there with Barbara too. So that's why we said we're going to go back to where it used to be.
Because of budget, well, I don't think we can ever do like we did back then, but we can get as close to it as possible with collaborative efforts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and we'll take your suggestion under consideration. Trust
Thank
me.
you. Ms. Wayne, do you want to give your time?
What time is the lunch?
From 12 to 4.
Noon to 4?
Noon to 4, right.
I'm giving it to Gina.
Oh, you're giving your time away to who? Oh, Ms. Williams?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, and residents. First, I want to just thank the entire board and VM for the awesome sidewalks that we're getting throughout the village. They're handicap accessible. That's a big plus, something that should have been done a long time ago, but I'm so grateful that it is getting done. I'm also grateful that we had the family fling. I came by really early. I couldn't stay long, but from what I could see, the efforts were excellent. Everything looked really nice, and I'm sure everyone had a great time. My concern tonight is that one of our trustees has been missing in action for some time now. And I don't need to know his personal business, but my thing is this. If you have a medical, physical, mental, spiritual, whatever the situation is, you need to at least let your constituents, someone know that you're not able to serve. Because I don't think a person, I know in the world, so moving forward, I wanted to know with the winter months coming up, and with you having such a small group of people, are we going to be able to maintain for the winter? Because we're not maintaining for the summer with the way litter, unkept grass, all those concerns. So, you know, I want University Park to look like the way it should look. So I'm concerned about that. And I just hope that you can have some answers for us, maybe hire some temps or something, but we need our village to look excellent in the manner that it always and used to have it. So those are my concerns, and everybody have a great night.
Thank you. You want to respond? Did you want to say?
Ms. Williams, thank you. We are in the process of hiring for our upcoming season. Yes, we are. And we do have a lawn service that is cutting grass, and you're right, we are on a skeleton crew, but I can tell you, we did Sandra Drive today on the cleanup, and on my way back here again, it was a mess all over again. So it's a battle that we are dealing with. And it's not that we're not out there. Our residents need to have more participation in their neighborhood. We can walk up and down the street every day. Myself and the mayor one day, on a Friday night, we were out here cleaning at 7 o'clock because we stayed overtime. Saturday morning, White Castles, Kentucky Fried Chicken. It just gets chucked out of the window. So we are doing the best we can, but we do need some help from our residents.
And on his behalf, we purposely, and he's absolutely correct. And I told him, I think it's someone purposely doing that, that's sick to even think about it. And that's why I asked for the signs to be put up about the fines for littering, keep our village beautiful. They were put up, and it's just amazing. Friday, walked through right behind him. It was cleaned up. Saturday morning, right out there again. So something is, you know, I hate to think that somebody's purposely doing it, but it looks obvious that it is. So we're trying to do the best we can, and like I said, I wish we could afford, I wish we got what Chicago got, a $10 million donation. And we could put, if I had a $10 million donation for our security, our police officers, I would have cameras, droids, everything running around so we can find out what's going on, because this is really sad. But if you do see something, as they always say something. I took a picture of a car that was speeding down the village, and it was just unbelievable. He's throwing things out the window, and I took a picture of it, and the guy slowed down. He saw me with my camera doing it. I mean, we need to say something if we see that, because other people don't respect our village, or for whatever reason they're littering. Okay, that's all we had. I'm sorry?
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Ms. Williams, so you would know, I did reach out to the mayor, the village manager. We have not had a chance to do it, as well as Director Richardson, is that we're asking or trying to get a Friday together where all our schedules are free, that the four of us, or it could be another trustee, but drive through the village. Okay. And if it can be a notepad in our hand, we write down everything that's wrong and we correct it. I'm quite sure you see the same thing we do, but I will say is that everyone's trying, and as fast as they pick up a piece of paper in the morning, 6 guys, you know, they're off to cut trees, pick up limbs, and something else, and then by 3 o'clock, by the time they get off, someone throws something else down. So yes, we're aware that things are happening, but also at the same time, so you would know that the 4 of us do or plan to have a scheduled tour of the village with, as you could say, a to-do list between the 4 of us.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Well, we were actually trying to stay on the 30-minute.
Yeah, but I need to say something here.
Okay, but could you ask him a question afterwards? I'm trying to stay with our schedule. I'm just respecting, because we've been here since 6:30. If you'd like to. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
The trustee.
Unfinished. We have finished. Yeah, but we have a 30-minute ruling. We're trying to get everything done at 30-minute ruling. And we asked people to come in earlier to sign in. These are the only sign-ins we got. And I'm just respecting everyone's time and the order. If you'd like to put it in writing, I have no problem. Give it to me and we'll address it, and we can address it at the next meeting. Okay? We're not trying to ignore anyone, but just keep in order. Okay? Unfinished business, F1A, third reading ordinance providing for the annual budget for the fiscal year commencing May 1st, 2018 and ending April 30th, 2019 for the Village of University Park, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee.
Second.
Moved by Trustee. Second by Trustee Mullen. Comments?
Madam Mayor, be recognized.
Yes, sir.
I want to say, Madam Mayor, I know we have been off, and we got a revised budget here. Well, there's 2 items in here, Madam Mayor, that if I could just ask the village manager if he can explain these 2 positions I see is page 10, if everyone wants to turn to the item of the agenda that was received for the budget. If Manager Pate can explain the athletic coordinator part-time with the proposed budget of $31,200. And then we have a social service coordinator. If you can also answer that person's role and job description for the 2, and that's for $66,153. And if there are more items, Mayor, that someone can, if the village manager can ask, that I just caught so far. If you can answer those 2 for me.
To answer the question on athletic.
I'm sorry, page 10. You didn't get that one?
I don't have a revision of the revision.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I do have a copy for you.
I can look at his. I know some is a revision of a revision.
Yeah.
Same. Okay.
That's what I was asking.
Okay.
As far as the athletic coordinator position goes, this was a position added by board member recommendation. I will reserve the name of the board members that recommended a specific position, but this position was added based on board member recommendation due to lack of youth activities in the village. So that position was added after the first and second reading of budget. The social service coordinator position is a position that the previous director of Parks and Recreation is holding. And that position entails in coordinating social service events such as LIHEAP, Aunt Martha's, and various other social service programs that go on within the village on a 3-day basis, as well as programming that is done in partnership with Thornwood House, as well as setting a strategic plan that will be composed by myself in trying to promote more services for our seniors in the village, which has lack of services that currently the village has. So it's really trying to enhance the services of the village and dealing with our low-income population in the village, as well as creating programming and is expanding programming and providing services for our residents in University Park.
So pretty much it's, you see that there's much benefit more compared to the...
Correct, and just for clarification, this is a position that's currently held based on budgetary collapsing of the Director of Parks and Recs and the Parks and Recs Department. So these are not new positions that are being created. These are created positions to try to reallocate staffing within the village in the most efficient and effective way possible with preventing layoffs of staff, which I think the village experienced about 2 years ago, which was quite devastating unless the board feels that staff should be laid off.
So did the roles and responsibilities change for specifically the social service coordinator? So is there a job description and roles and responsibilities? Because Parks and Recs was different. I believe there's roles and responsibilities and a job description for that, right?
Excellent, and that's an excellent question, Trustee. Prior to job descriptions being created and these positions being codified, the board has to pass a budget to authorize the funding for the positions. If the board does not pass funding for the positions, thus an ordinance cannot be created, thus job descriptions cannot be created. So these positions actually, once the board either approves or denies funding for the position, job descriptions will be created, distributed to the board, and the village attorney, I actually spoke to him today, will be drafting the appropriate ordinances to delineate these positions, but we have to have funding first prior to doing that.
I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Who's the, you said they aren't new positions. So
The athletic coordinator is a new position. The social service coordinator is a current staff member from the collapsed Parks and Recs department that was collapsed by the board 2 or 3 months ago.
the athletic coordinator.
The athletic coordinator will be a position that's posted and advertised for.
Okay.
Anyone else? I'm going to address one, and I'm not trying to get anyone laid off. They laid off quite a few years ago. And the police was the main thing that was a nerve-wrecker for me, and we can't get that back. So I'm hoping that our Police and Fire Commission interviewing, I do know that, and I'd like to see that back on here, because safety is everything for the Village University Park.
Right.
And the way things went off in here in July 4th, we do definitely need more in our police department. And that's what I'm looking to see in addition to. I don't have a problem with reorganizing or reconstructing job descriptions, but when it was done before, I thought it was a little bit much when they eliminated policemen. At that point, I didn't really have a vote, and the police officers were just removed, and we had just brought them on board. This was our past commissioner, and he's still bitter behind it. That was unnecessary. That was an unnecessary cut, and a very dangerous cut. So we're trying to retrieve that and make sure that that comes back. At this point in time, looking at the budget, as you so say, I noticed there is an increase for an employee. Not that I don't want it or they don't deserve it. That's not my plight here. I think that we should just hold off on it and talk about it to the board for next week, maybe have a special workshop on the increase, not for the promotions that they received. Our police and fire, acceptable, but the other position for substantial amount of money. Not that they don't deserve it. I just want to make sure everything is on board with that. Everyone is on board with that. Because to give that, I think that's almost a part-time position that we can do that for $8,000 increase. for someone, but I know we got to be mindful of the budget. It's just not easy, but we can talk as a board and wait. I think we should hold off on that for a week and talk about it. And whether they put it in added or whatever, fine. But at this point, I think right now we need to look at the monies again on that. Not to lay off anyone. I'm not trying to lay off anyone, but I'm trying to be correct in how we're doing the money.
Madam Mayor, if I could be recognized.
Yes, sir.
As far as the police department and the positions, the police department deficit and positions have been restored in the budget. Based on the budget that the board has now, currently, I would emphasize that the changes that Madam Mayor are referencing and various other trustees are referencing, these changes have been incorporated in the budget since the first and second reading. When the budget was presented over 3 months ago, the numbers have not changed. In regards to these set positions, I have not received any input other than from the mayor in regards to questions and related to various positions in the budget. I will say that at this point, my office as village manager, until the board passes a budget, I will not feel comfortable hiring any additional staffing. That's including police officers, that's including secretaries and assistants, or any other positions within the village until a budget is passed. And I think that's very vital and it's very important to understand that. So until a budget is passed, I want to feel secure that the board will support this budget fully. And if the budget is not supported and there's various changes that can be made, I'd rather be comfortable in standing by before we bring on positions that were incorporated in the budget that was not incorporated in the last year's budget. I think that's very vital and important.
Okay, Trustee Wilson.
Okay. I'm getting old, so I forget sometimes, but we had one meeting in July. And at the last Finance Committee meeting, it was my understanding the board was going to have a workshop to go through each of these line items one by one. I honestly thought we were going to have a workshop to go over this budget, because at the Finance Committee meeting, there were a lot of questions brought up. And I don't recall if you were at that meeting in June, the Finance Committee meeting. Were you there in June?
That's correct, Trustee, but I don't control scheduling workshops, so.
Right, so I understand that. But to have a workshop, I'd rather everybody in the workshop hear my questions than to just send one question to you. And that's why I did not forward any questions, because it was my understanding we were going to have a workshop. One to discuss this $8,000 increase, one to discuss...
Can you specify the specific position you're referencing for the $8,000 increase? What's the position? No, we're talking about positions. We're not talking about personnel. If you can address the position that we're talking about.
I'd rather not, because I have a whole lot of dotted bullet points, and that's why I thought it was my understanding we were going to have a workshop, as opposed to the time constraint of this meeting and going through all my bullet points and maybe someone else's. So
again, this is the same budget that has been presented to the board on multiple occasions, minus two changes that are located in the budget. Also, in the second reading of the budget, as the Madam Clerk always puts out, there's any questions related to the budget, please delineate those questions for them to be answered. The only individuals that have provided input in regards to the budget is Trustee Milton Payton and Mayor Covington. At this point, this would be the first time I've heard any concerns in regards to various positions in the budget that you may have a concern over. If we're talking about specific positions, we're talking about positions and not people. When we do budgets, we don't think about people, we think about positions, because people may change but positions remain. So I would like clarification, since publicly we're making a statement in regards to concerns related to the budget. I think publicly the residents should know what the specific concerns are so we can be transparent.
Mayor?
So-
Yeah.
Sorry. She's still speaking and then the mayor comes.
All right.
I will not. I will not. Okay? There are a lot of line items. When you talk about a budget, you talk about revenue, and you talk about expenditures. So a budget can't be right if we're just talking about expenditures. So I'm not going to talk about the one bullet point on a position for expenditures when I'm not going to talk about all the bullet points I have on revenue. At the Finance Committee meeting that you were at, I did bring up a lot of items. I have them all bullet pointed right here. So,
Are they documented? Do we have any, other than the finance meeting, trustee? What I'm saying is there has been no documentation or communication in regards to various issues in regards to revenues compared to expenditures. If I would have received that, I would have briefed the mayor on that, would have discussed, and you would have received a detailed answer. As with all agenda items, it is asked that any questions that exist, that we provide the questions so clarification can be provided so we can give you an answer. For us to get to a third reading of a budget and then now we're saying we need clarification is kind of blindsided to me and my staff because I don't know what you're referencing.
That's unfortunate.
Okay.
Did the finance committee give you any recommendations from their finance, when the meeting they went over the budget?
The finance committee provided verbal recommendations, but the recommendations in writing they have not provided.
They just brought up verbal?
That's correct.
Did we do anything with their verbal recommendations?
The finance committee is advisory, and I took their recommendations under advisement as per village ordinance.
Okay.
Trustee Milton Payne.
Yeah, Mayor, just, if I remember correctly, I'm getting old here, so sometimes I don't remember too good. But I think we had a workshop on the budget. We had a public hearing, and we've had a number of requests to provide input. I know I took my little precious time, and my head was hurting when I was done, but I had about a page and a half of questions that I submitted and issues related to the budget. So, you know, we're 4 months already into the budget year, and there has been plenty of opportunity, I think, to provide input. Budget is just a guideline, and I think, you know, at this point, we need to just go ahead and approve the budget. We can always amend the budget. We can always amend the budget, particularly with the new positions and so forth that are there, but we need to just go ahead and move forward. We can't just, you know, continue to dance in place. There's been a lot of opportunity for us to provide our input. You know, and just because people speak in the finance committee, and I'm one that speaks, if the finance committee as a committee does not approve some specific recommendations, then the board should not necessarily go with it, because anybody can have any kind of opinion, you know, but something specific should come, a consensus, you know, from the finance committee if they would like the board to seriously consider it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You don't have a mic. Can someone give him a mic?
Here's my position.
He doesn't have a mic. You got a mic?
Okay, here's my position on this budget. Yes, the budget can always be amended, okay, always be amended. But the problem here with this budget is that we have not closed out this village's books in 2 years, okay? The village's finances, it was money that's in the bank, is not going to be synchronized with what this budget says. Okay, so we're going to have problems with this budget. It's going to be a lot of adjusting entries on this budget, you know, once we actually pass this budget and move forward with it, okay? But right now, we don't have an accounting department. We haven't, like I said, we have not closed out the village's books in 2 years. So moving forward with this budget is it's going to be a disservice to the residents here in this village. Thank you very much.
Mayor, may I just come in?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Trustee.
Again, the budget is a guideline for spending.
Yeah, that's all.
The fact that we haven't closed our books, what does that say? Then we shouldn't have had a budget for, I don't know, 5 years, because the books hadn't been closed in probably 4 years. Then they managed to, and we found out all these problems that we had, and through IRH development, and now with our auditors, we've been able to move forward with this thing. We just need to move forward. We can always amend the budget. There are other things that are going to be coming up that maybe we can't talk about right now that will necessitate amending the budget, and perhaps for the positive. You know, if not this year, then the next year. But we need to go ahead and move forward, I think.
Okay. Anyone else? It is a working document, and I will not be threatened on a budget. And last I checked, I was the CEO here. We're not getting ready to go back there. So when I feel that we want to pull something out and we could pass the budget, we can modify. Correct me if I'm wrong, attorney. Can we not modify this budget and then pass it? I'm sorry.
The budget could be amended in the future. That's correct. And it was done last year. I know on one occasion for the clerk, she didn't have money to attend seminars or travel. At that juncture, the board moved to amend the budget. At that point in time, they took money from each of the trustees' line item and transferred it to be utilized by the clerk.
And to say, be very careful in my words right now. This budget, based on what it is, I feel we can modify it and we could pass the budget. And and there was positions that was taken out of here that I feel was a disrespect to this board and to the residents of University Park as far as services. That should have never been removed. Why it was removed? Because the person that held that position became the village manager. It was John Townsend at that time. And the board was left without a staff person, which was very, very disrespectful because we need help up here. We work every day. I work every day. And I could show you my telephone, and it's ridiculous. I have 30, 40 calls in 2 days. I try to respond back to people. People in this village deserve service. They deserve something from this board. When people call the village board or the village mayor, they're supposed to be able to get a response. Mayor, can I have a meeting with you? Mayor, this, they want to make reports, I'm on the phone sometimes till midnight. Miss Town is out there. She will call me at 10 o'clock at night. There are complaints that people come and I do not call back. And that's hard on me and my family. And for me not to have an assistant is ludicrous. I had a meeting today in Washington, D.C. I could have had someone else to take that, but I can't because I don't have anyone to do anything, no scheduling. This board cannot have meetings set up. We have correspondence with congressmen every level of legislation. There are things that need to be attended that sometime that person went and attended for us and came back with a report. And for me not to have that is a disadvantage to this board and to the residents. There's no turnaround. You deserve better than that. If people go up to the village hall, sometimes it's just so much they can do. We have limited people in our finance. They need to have the person up there they used to have before. That was removed. Those two positions is very vital to these residents of University Park, and especially to me and this board. We need things gathered. We need to get it done. So with that said,
Yeah, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think this budget restores that. You know, when we had the layoffs before, it wasn't just the police that got laid off. We laid off 23 people.
Yes.
So it was a third of the workforce. And the reason for that is because and even with that, we barely made it through to be able to make payroll. We were actually stealing from Paul to pay Peter, or vice versa, in order to make payroll. So we're in a little bit better shape now, and the liaison now is in the budget for the board, which is a good thing. And I think because even when Jonna was here and she eliminated her executive assistant, I asked the question, how are you going to do this with all the stuff that's going on with the village? You got to have some staff, but that's what had to be done, you know. and the same thing with the board. So everybody had to share the pain equally. Even the police department, I think, lost some, some folks and so forth, so. But I'm glad to see that it is coming through, because, I don't know how you do it either, Mayor. We can't do it as effectively, obviously, without a liaison. So at least we get a part-time person, and then hopefully, downstream here, we'll be able to add additional resources as our revenue starts to increase here.
Thank you. And
Madam Mayor,
those
if I
two
could be
positions those two positions are not going to be full-time. We're going to split it up and make 2 part-time, rather than have 1 full-time and split the funds. So that way we can both have what we need at that cost. It's still not going to be a full-time. So that's great. And they're going to be contractual. So there will be no benefits added as well.
Madam Mayor, if I could be recognized,
Yes.
I would ask the board if there's a specific issue in regards to a specific position, that the board please call a motion to either eliminate or modify whatever positions that there are issues with, so we can move forward with the budget. If it's 1 or 2 positions that the board or some members of the board have issues with, let's do the modification now. The board can modify those line items and we can move forward. But we don't know, nobody's knowing what positions.
Okay, just, board, you want to make your statement? I'm sorry.
Mayor, I asked the question because I seen the email that we did have 2 additional, or not 2 additional, excuse me. Manager Pate made it clear that you switch, or actually it's of the same of that park and rec, correct? Okay, so that salary, what he explained was that you're breaking the athletic coordinator down to be a part-time position, as well as the social service, which was pretty much doing what that person was doing initially under Park and Rec, correct?
So based on priorities and what the Park and Recs department did or failed to do, a member of that staff was moved into a social service coordinator position, because that is basically what they're doing. That's what they have been doing. Coordinating LIHEAP, social service programs in 90 Town Center, trips for our senior population. So that is going to be a full-time position by a current full-time employee, not a new employee. Okay?
Okay.
All right. The athletic coordinator position is a new position that was recommended by multiple members of this board in order to have somebody to coordinate all athletic activities in the village, to be a point person to deal with such as concussion-related issues, football, baseball, wrestling, coordinating the monies that come out of the village and go to the various athletic organizations, and actually have programming for our youth by bringing coaches from the outside in to do programming for the youth and vice versa. So that position was a brainchild of specific members of the board, not specifically the village manager, based on providing services for the residents, because the biggest thing I heard this summer, I think a lot of board members heard, there's nothing for the kids. There are no activities for the kids. There's no sporting for the kids. We had baseball that occurred. There's a baseball banquet that nobody showed up to. There was not a lot of participation in the baseball program. So what I want to do is create a position within the village that can liaise with the various programs. Number 1, to ensure that their enrollment is up. Number 2, monitor those specialty issues such as the concussion protocols and various other initiatives that Trustee Wilson and various other board members have brought up, as well as the budgeting piece and providing monies to those specific teams on a very strict part-time basis.
No. How much is the part-time position for our liaisons? How much? $23,000.
Times 2.
Okay, and this part-time is $31,000?
That's a projected amount. That's not the exact amount that that person may actually make. That's just a projected amount.
We really should have actual. We're doing the budget.
You can't have an actual as a new position, Mayor, until the person works a year.
And if you're going to create one, you should have an idea of exactly what you're thinking about paying.
Madam Mayor, is not to exceed 31,000. That's the ceiling. So, I mean, but if you guys want to lower that position amount, you all are free to do that as well. I mean, I want to kind of work with the board to kind of get this done tonight if possible. So if there's modifications of numbers, let's go ahead and get them done.
That's modification of that number, because I don't think that athletic is seasonal, and I would, yes, that's necessary. I don't have a problem with that in a sense, but it wasn't posted, and see, before, never mind, I'm not going to go there.
Position can be posted until the board approves it, Mayor.
I understand that. I totally understand that. But I was wondering, maybe we can go a little lower, because athletic over professionalism that we're having as my assistant, to get 23 and athletic to get 31 is I don't think that's not equal service.
The athletic coordinator position is more.
Make that a little bit lower as well.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
can I make a motion? Make a motion for this.
Trustee Williams, wait.
She said I can go. I was just asking that, I'm listening to everybody and what everybody's saying, and I see this budget. I don't see nothing wrong when even the attorney has said that we can amend it at any time. So I think the urgency here is to pass the budget. If we come across anything that's not right, we can amend it.
Yes, but thank
That's
you.
all.
I agree with you, but I don't want to post a position for $31,000 and then lower it to the person. So why don't we can change that amount right now and then post the position and see if they accept it. At that time, I have no problems with that.
Ma'am, do we have a person with this position?
No, the position is vacant.
So this is what I'm saying. So we don't even have to hire that person at this time.
But when you post something, you put a dollar amount to the advertisement.
That's what I'm asking. Can that be amended?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was saying. We're going to amend that amount.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I make a motion to amend this salary from 31,000 to 15,000 on this budget?
There's a second. Second by, moved by trustee.
I just prefer to see it maybe at 22 if you're concerned, 23, because you're not going to attract much of 15,000.
It's only part-time.
Part-time. 22.
Right.
The executive liaison is going to be 23, so.
Okay, 20. You want to change?
For clarity, which position?
I'm sorry.
That's going to be the athletic coordinator, part-time, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, if I may modify that number from 15 to 22. And Trustee Paula Wilson, second, and I think we can go forward with a vote. Yes.
$15.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The position is part-time, and it's
Contract.
is it a part-time position? If it's a part-time position and we're going through the winter months with this thing here, how is it a part-time if we're going through the winter months?
How many hours can they work?
Is it a part-time position? Is it a?
How many hours?
So are
It's a
we?
part-time position, not to exceed 30 hours a week, if even it gets to that point. So no, it's a part-time position. Based on state and federal standards, about amount of hours worked per week, it is a part-time position.
Although it's although it's all seasons.
Yeah, based on athletic activities. So this person's not just going to be here for example, if December we have nothing going on in regards to athletics, that person will not be collecting a paycheck in December. The only person will only be collecting a paycheck during athletic programs that are currently going on that the village is supporting, such as basketball that's coming up quite shortly, and various other programs that the village sponsors. So this is not just a rubber stamp position that somebody was going to sit for 12 months and get a paycheck and not actually perform a job.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Trustee Wilson.
Since we can amend this budget at any time, will the board get to see the job description and the roles and responsibilities and what this person will actually be doing prior to that person being hired?
So the answer is yes. The board will see it based on advisement purposes. The modification of a job description runs into the day-to-day operational roles of the village manager, but the board will have a visual of the job description prior to posting, and I will provide a certain amount of days with a deadline for the board to provide any input going forward.
Okay. Any other input? Okay. Anyone else? Sir? Okay. Motion for,
Madam Mayor, we need to do a roll call on this motion.
motion for amendment, modifications rather?
No, amendment. This amendment.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The 22,000.
For the $22,000 in this position. And what about the modification and the raise for the other position? Did we forget that?
Madam Mayor, okay. Village manager wants me to point out the position. So I'm looking at the Director of Public Works. There's an $8,000 increase for the Director of Public Works. Did any other staff member get an increase?
The fire chief has a slated increase in the budget. The deputy police chief has a slated increase in the budget.
Is that because
as
of
well.
their roles changed?
Right.
Or is that because they just got an increase?
So you have a combination of role change as well as looking at industry standards based on other municipalities in the area and looking at those salaries. The Director of Public Works position at the salary is at $72,000 is well below market value for a municipality of this size. Also, Director Richardson is running a ghost staff, basically running a staff that's in deficit. It is in my opinion, first, again, we look at positions not based on the person holding the position, but the position as looking at a position based on doing a proper comparables. So this is not a position and this is not a raise in adding and looking at a person, it's looking at the position. So that's how I look at budgets and I try to be fair across the line. You have various other staff members that make exceptionally much higher salaries, and then you have a staff member that is below market value. I think, we're being reasonable at that point. But again, it's the board's prerogative, and at this point, I believe I've stressed, I think, enough my position on the matter. If it's the board's prerogative to lower said salary, then that is the board's prerogative, and we can move forward, and I will go off the board's direction.
Okay. My original question was, that position received an $8,000 increase. Did any other staff member receive an increase? I'm about to figure out the percentage.
So you have the deputy fire chief that was making $90,000 is now making $102,000. That is a $12,000 increase.
Did he get a role change?
That was a role change.
Okay, so that's understandable.
You have the police commander position based on equity and looking at the raises that was done by the Teamsters and doing equity increases. She received a raise.
Is that a role change? Didn't she get a
That's
raise?
correct.
Okay,
That's
that was
correct.
a role change. Okay.
That's correct.
So those two
But while you're looking at role changes, you also have to look at positions and responsibilities and try to be equalized salaries as well. And again, I think that's what I was looking at. But again, it's the board's prerogative to make that change. Please do so.
Okay, so other than the two role changes, has any other staff member received cost of living increase or any other increases?
You have a increase for the community engagement position. from previous salary. And those pretty much are only, and then naturally union positions get their natural raises based on the collective bargaining agreement. So there are several raises in various positions such as public works, the police department, code enforcement based on contractual increases that were made. So there were various increases made across the board.
So other than contractual, and I don't believe that position is contractual, other than contractual obligations and the 2 role increases, the role change increases, no other staff members, except for now, I don't see for communication and community engagement specialists, I don't see on the last 3 copies of the budget what the previous pay was to say this increase or not.
Because that position was eliminated, because that was a Parks and Recreation position. So that position was eliminated, but that staff member is currently making their current salary as they were making in Parks and Recreation, pending the approval of the budget to increase that position to the salary as you see listed.
And what, can you tell me what that percentage is of that increase?
You're asking?
The percentage increase. That's a role change too, right?
Right.
That one is a role change.
So as far as percentage increases, when you're looking at percentage increases, you're looking at a person's position, the position they hold, and an increase going on the next year. This is a role change, so it wouldn't be a percentage increase based on a position.
Okay, so the increases are for the 3 role changes, which makes sense, and then the contractual for police and fire, which makes sense. A 9% increase for somebody who is not under a contract, to me is a bit excessive. I have never worked at a place where anybody gets a 9% increase. Now, if the job is, if the position is, they're doing extraordinary, a 2%, a 3%, a 9% increase for no role change, no additional responsibilities, just doesn't,
And
it doesn't
trustee,
make sense.
as I stated, if it's the board's prerogative to make that change, please recommend the change so it can be made. Again, there has been no recommended change, but other than the mayor, there's been no recommended change for any dollar amounts for any budgetary positions until the 3rd reading of the budget today. And I'm stressing that because I don't want to convey to the residents that these issues have been brought up previously, because the only person who's brought up the issue is the mayor. And previously, this is the first time that I'm being made aware in regards to salary issues within the budget, which could have been handled at 1st and 2nd reading, could have been handled behind closed doors and not ostracizing employees in the middle of the board.
Yeah, Mayor,
Trustee.
one of the things that I think we all need to realize, and the public also, is that when we had the budget crisis before, we also cut the salaries 10%. So we were reasonably competitive then. And then we cut the salaries 10%. We even had to close Village Hall for a day, to help accommodate that. So as a minimum, I think 8%, we're trying to get, you get what you pay for. So as a minimum, I think we need to go ahead with this increase to put us back into where we should be, since we're doing a little bit better right now where we were before. Because I haven't done a Hayes study on this, but I used to do a lot of that kind of thing. And because I used to recruit engineers, and so we used to have a problem with salary compression because the new kids coming out of school were making more money than the people that had been there. Trustee Wilson, that was back in the day with me, so it's a little precedes you a little bit. So, but we did have to give some pretty substantial increases, much more than 8% in order to keep some people whole. But in this case, for this day and age, I think it just behooves us to realize that there were cuts, not necessarily individual, but every position was cut 10%. So we need to move forward to try to maybe restore that as well, and so we can be fair to everyone and be competitive. When I was with the school board, one of the things that we found out that we were continually bringing in new teachers. And one of the reasons why is because a teacher could walk down the street and make $10,000 a year more. And until we then focused on increasing that base salary so we could be competitive, we weren't, you know, only then will we be able to stop the bleeding. And because there's a cost to turnover, you know. I mean, I used to go through all of this stuff when I was in industry, but again, you know, that's just where I am on this whole thing.
Okay. Did you have something else to say, Trustee Wilson?
Trustee Payton, I totally agree. Sometimes people do, certain circumstances, you do have to get a huge increase. But if what you say is true, and I don't know because I don't see how much we pay people, I don't see year-to-date actuals for 2018, so I can't go back and compare. Things have been moved around, I can't go back and compare. However, if everybody's responsibilities or if everyone's finances were cut 10%, then why is only one person receiving a 9% increase? If the village doesn't have the money to give everybody the same thing, if everybody was cut, everybody should be made whole. Not one person giving a 9% increase and other people not. Role changes are different. Roles and responsibilities, they change, you get an increase. That's expected. This role is not changing. As long as I've been paying attention in University Park, we haven't had public works directors walking away because they weren't getting paid enough. If we had people constantly coming in and leaving that position, I could say maybe I could see that. But what other village compared to this one do they pay a position $80,000? What town comparable to us? I'd like to see those numbers.
Well,
otherwise, if we're not going to make everybody whole, why are we making one person a 9% increase?
Well, let me just respond to that just briefly because I think we need to move on. If you want to compare apples to apple, there were rule changes where people got promoted. If you take a look at, for example, deputy chief position. So she's going from 90 to 102,000. That's about a 15% increase. Okay. Now there's additional responsibilities for that, and the same thing with the deputy chief and the fire department went to become the chief. He was doing that role for what, 4 or 5 years as a deputy chief. Okay. So you know, we had the public works director in the same position. There's no opportunity for that increase in terms of role responsibility. So again, I'm just with, if a lot of public works directors, if you go around, last time I looked, it's been a few years, but they were in the $90,000, $100,000 range. It's a big responsibility, a big responsibility. And if you don't think so, if you have an accident and a problem, look what it's going to cost you. If you take a look at, for example, I don't know, I remember you, Mayor, when we first started on the Finance Committee, we had a problem with the Public Works Director, and he ordered $60,000 worth of light bulbs, right? 60,000, right? And that didn't include all the other stuff that went missing because we had a problem with it, you know. So again, you need to pay people what's competitive. That's where I am. I'm done.
all right. I have to say this, and as he said, I was the one that had a problem with it, and I did. Because it is a substantial amount. I love President Obama dearly. Loved him, still do. And when his first term, 4 years, we didn't get a raise at all. We were happy that we had a job. And we understood the economy and what he was trying to do with the budgets. 4 years later, he finally gave us a raise. It's 1%. And we're looking at another 1% again this year, if we get it. So sometimes you just have to thank God that you have a position and try to do the best you can and move on. But much is given, much is required. Now, I feel that I understand he's at a disadvantage, but right now, at 10%, I need to know Okay, what comparison? I talked to the chief and he did tell me, talked to Mr. Payton, he said, Park Forest has 30,000 people. We don't have that many people. Are we comparing it with their budget as well? I can compare it. I can say Country Club Hills is making this, or a larger city, Hazel Crest, or somewhere else. But how many staff do they have? How many? Because right now, we can't be a certain grade unless we have a certain amount of grades under us. You have to justify the means. And I'm really trying to make this fair. It's nothing against Mr. Harry at all. We appreciate what he's doing, but right now, can we afford it? We want to compensate him for his position and what he's doing, and I thank him for what he's doing. But how much was he making before, and what was the cut? I'm talking to you, Manager Payton. Do you remember how much he was originally making?
I know the current salary, and again, so Mayor, I think I don't have a problem providing information. When we start talking employees' names and then providing employee details, we're kind of teeter-tottering.
You asked that they need to do that though.
We're kind of.
Because she didn't want to say it, but you did ask.
Well, I said to delineate a position, not a name. She mentioned the name. I asked the trustee to delineate a position.
Okay, well, okay. All right. Well, at this point, you said Public Works. And you said the manager. You told her to say that. You need to know.
The position, not the name, Mayor. And I think we're in violation. We've been speaking on personnel matters when you bring up names. If we're talking about positions, we can discuss positions. The minute we started speaking on personnel names, that's the issue.
Okay, so I apologize. So what we're going to have to do is, everybody know who the village manager. You asked her a question, position. Everybody know what position, who's what. Okay. Anyway. Okay. 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 All right.
Madam Mayor. Roll call on a motion to amend the salary for the athletic coordinator from $31,000 to $22,000. Trustee Williams.
Both sides.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye. Motion to approve the budget.
We have a motion to approve the budget. Second. And we'll just have to add as amended.
Second.
Oh, he second.
We have a motion and a second. Trustee Payton moved, Trustee McMullen second the motion to approve the budget.
Roll call.
Okay. Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Both no.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington. Mayor Covington.
Both sides. I'll amend it.
Madam Mayor, that's ordinance 2018-27.
Okay. New business, first, second, and third reading, an ordinance of the Village of University Park, Cook County, Illinois, authorizing establishment of the tax increment finance and interest parties, registries, and adopting registration full rules for such registries. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Brooks, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Milton. Roll call. I'm sorry, questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none. Roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Aye.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Both sides.
Madam Mayor, that's ordinance 2018-28.
Okay. First, second, and third reading in an ordinance authorizing the sale of the surplus vehicles. Give her water. Just want water? Here, I haven't opened this. Oh, okay. Sorry, first and second, third reading an ordinance authorizing the sale of surplus vehicles owned by the Village of University Park, Willicook County, Illinois. Is there a motion? So moved by Trustee Brooks. Second. Second by Trustee Mullen. Concerns, comments? Comment. Yes, sir.
Manager Pate, how many more of these raggedy vehicles we got left to get rid of? Because I honestly, I look at some of these photos and it's a shame.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree. So, Trustee, I'll tell you, it is the village's plan to get rid of all these outdated vehicles by the end of the year. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to give a special thanks to the person that is not more anal than me, just as anal, our fire chief, in trying to get this together. We have so many vehicles at different tow yards in various different places that the village never really properly disposed of. We have to get rid of this liability because, number one, these are vehicles that still registered to the village to some certain extent. And at this point, we've lost a lot of momentum as far as getting a lot of money for the vehicle, but at least we can get scrapped for these vehicles because these vehicles have been sitting for years in inoperable positions. So we're trying to kind of clean that up and lessen our vehicle inventory. We buy, but we don't dispose of, and that's what you see about over 10 years of lack of disposing of vehicles.
Okay, so we have, I see, I remember the old police truck, pickup truck. I haven't seen something like that since Phoenix Police. You also have public work vehicles in here. I see, look like one of our old pickups.
So it's all vehicles. This is not specific to police, and any vehicle that's of surplus is listed, and that's why you have a detail. The biggest issue I always say was organization, and like I said, Chief Chelios was a wealth of help. Him and Deputy Chief Richards kind of took on this project for me. And they literally went to every single tow yard that the village had done business with to kind of inventory these cars. Because, like I said, number one, it's a liability on the village by still having these vehicles maintained at these yards. And I think the biggest issue is, especially municipal property, the board has to vote on disposing of property. So I think rather than just putting up the time and the effort to kind of inventory these vehicles, we just kept buying vehicles and not dealing with the older vehicles because of the work required to dispose of them.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'd also like to see some of the vehicles I know we do have down right now to see if they can get repaired because of budgetary purposes. We need to look for those to be repaired. I know the cable truck, I don't know where that's at. We need to
Van there,
back working.
it's in Public Works. It's
It
located in
needs to
Public
be
Works.
back and working. And we do have some things we looked at, Trustee McMullen and I saw at the cable station that needs to be put into the surplus. I'll have Ms. Jenkins to identify those that could be going into surplus as well. Okay, any other comments, concerns? Hearing none, roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Votes aye.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Vote aye.
Madam Mayor, that's ordinance 2018-29.
29.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. First, second, and third reading an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement for the purpose of UP for 5 previous owned emergency staff vehicles by and between Chicago Motors, Inc. and the Village of University Park and Wilcook County, Illinois. Is there a motion? So moved by Trustee Brooks. Second. Is there a second? Second. Second by Trustee McMullen. Concerns, comments, questions?
Comment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Manager Pate, could you let me know? I see 1, 2, 3 Ford Explorers 2016s, in which I hope they're going where I think they're going, right?
Yes, sir. So I can
Where's that?
I can explain those.
Going where?
Madam Mayor, I'm about to explain.
Okay.
So the 5 vehicles are for police and fire. So what we did was we sat down and kind of looked at where we were looking as far as obtaining vehicles. We have a huge breakdown rate right now of vehicles in the police department. We have a fire chief and a deputy fire chief that have no vehicles. The fire chief's vehicle transmission went out, I want to say it'll be about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, under previous management. The deputy fire chief has no vehicles, but both those positions require 24-hour on-call status with emergency equipment. So 2 of those vehicles are going to the fire department. The other 3 are going to police, and I'll explain that.
Tell me which one so I know what I'm looking at.
So your 3 Explorers are going to the police department, and I think we have a Tahoe going
patrol?
Yes. So
patrol.
yeah. So actually, those used vehicles are not necessarily going to patrol. My vehicle that's already fully equipped with a computer and all the emergency equipment will be provided back to patrol for their use. It's a lower mile vehicle. It doesn't require such amount of upfit. The vehicle's already actually fully upfitted, so the vehicle could be used immediately. That vehicle is going to go to Deputy Chief Wilson. Her vehicle is going to be downgraded down to patrol. And we are actually purchasing a truck enforcement vehicle, potentially, to start a truck enforcement program, because currently we do not have a vehicle that can fit the portable scales. The Explorers have a very difficult time in fitting the portable scales to do our truck enforcement. So we're looking at getting potentially a pickup truck to do truck enforcement.
So is that this vehicle then?
Yes, potentially. Because at the time this was all put together,
because you know what I'm going to tell you, Chief.
Yes.
Let me say something. And again, I come from a place where I was driving squad cars with holes in the bottom. I had calluses on my hand on a hot summer day. When there's a burglary in progress, I'm going to a call with one working light. I'm glad you mentioned truck enforcement, because when I'm picking up little Kayla, 1 o'clock in the morning, or was on the way back, because she works up here at the theater, they had a concert, we had an 18-wheeler roll right down the street, and I'll send you the picture. She said, "Daddy, what you doing?" I said, "I'm snapping the picture because I'm sick and tired of these trucks coming down the street." 1 a.m., and matter of fact, on the way to the board meeting, it was a silver one. He was just sit back, laid back, wasn't worried. The patrolmen have to be taken care of first. After I seen that semi-truck, when I get right up here, I see one light. I thought it was a motorcycle. It's a squad car. Now, how he gonna write somebody or pull somebody over for one headlight if he got one headlight out? So I'm gonna go again with my old school cop. I give it to Graves, God bless his soul. The man came in the office with nothing in Harvey, just like we're broke. The first 7 vehicles went to patrolmen. He could have gave it to the commanders. He could have gave it to his command staff. I feel we should treat the officers the same way. If you continue to give them raggedy, and I'm going to tell you, folks, all you got to do is look at the vehicle, the front of the vehicle. You know the year of it. This is a 95-1. That means that's a 95 that's driving around that your taxpayer dollars is paying for. Now, the oldest, the vehicle I see in patrol, or the newest, is a 14. Am I mistaken, or a 16?
Yeah, 16's trustee.
And I know it's tired. If I was rolling around all day with a guy with some equipment, I'm tired. It's time to retire. So, Chief, I have no problem, but I would like to see the patrolmen get the vehicles first. Command staff can wait. Chief, I understand. But circulating old raggedy vehicles is not fun. So if we can do that, Chief, I have no problem with it. Why? The second question is, can we get into a leasing or something?
That's a great question. So the reason the village can't get into leasing is because there's no updated audits, and no matter how much I've begged for to allow us to get into a leasing program, because the previous manager allowed the audits to go so many years late until we're at least up to date, or at least 1.5 years behind on the audit, that's when Ford said they'll reconsider us. So at this point, they said if we're more than 3 years behind on audits, they're not looking at us. I have spoken to the operations manager at Ford Leasing, and he has made an agreement because he understands the village's issues, and he's worked with other villages with similar issues. He stated once we get our audits at least 2 years, up to date, meaning 2 years behind, instead of more than 3 years behind, they will work on doing a leasing program. Also, the board needs to be made aware that in the year 2015, this village purchased 7 vehicles leased. Which year? 2015. 7 vehicles. So let me explain to you what the issue is when you're getting 7 vehicles leased, and that's including public works vehicles. That is a payment that the village is obligated to make. A rather large payment because you purchased so many vehicles at one time. So our goal is to first get these vehicles into the fleet because I am paying astronomical money of vehicles being taken out of service because of engine issues and transmission issues, because these vehicles will be driven 24 hours a day instead of 12 hours per shift. So I'm trying to get some relief as far as the vehicles we currently have. Once that occurs, we will be going into a regular leasing program at 2 vehicles per year. Not 5 vehicles a year, not 7 vehicles a year, 2 vehicles per year, and at a payment that the village can manage.
Thank you. All right. Any other? Yes.
The chief was, village manager Pate, was in the middle of saying the first 3, the 2016 Ford Explorers go to the police department. Where did the other 2 vehicles go?
So, Chief Chelios, if you can kind of delineate and clarify the vehicle assignments. He worked on the project, so I want to make sure you have 100% accurate information.
Okay, what we worked on for this meeting with the surplus of current equipment and the proposed acquisition of new vehicles was to show that as 5 old surplus vehicles are going out, we're bringing 5, previously used vehicles in. And how this is going to hopefully play out is right after the quote from Chicago Motors, you have basically a bio sheet on each vehicle on what their intended use is going to be. So the first one, I don't have a page number, but the first 2016 Explorer you see was slated for village administration, with the current vehicle returning back to the police department, which would be Unit 15-1 going back to the police department. The next Explorer slated was for my deputy chief, who at the time, that rank and position was provided with a 98 Jeep Cherokee that had to be taken off the streets in 2014 due to some pretty substantial safety issues. The third and final Explorer would be going to myself, which would replace my old Ford Expedition, which was a 2006 that experienced a pretty significant failure almost 3 years ago. The Tahoe that's been slated for acquisition would go to replace an 18-year-old vehicle in the fire department that's got 120,000 plus miles on it. And then the last one is the pickup truck that would go to the police department for truck enforcement and other response missions for them.
Yeah, just one comment. Using this approach, Manager Pate, I see we're saving $55,000 versus going buying new stuff. So, it's a good interim measure, I think. And, I agree with Trustee Brooks that downstream, it'd be nice to have newer vehicles, but right now, $55,000 is $55,000. So.
Okay, and until we can get to the leasing, because that was a disaster. That was the first thing that I initiated, that they should always go leasing. We were doing well until something else happened. And that happened. Now we can't do the leasing. That saved us tremendous amount of money because that way the police department could turn them over. They didn't have to worry about maintenance. So good thing, another good thing was ruined, but we are still going to come back and we'll be better. So God bless our fire department, police department, and thank you for everything you're doing. Any other comments, concerns? Roll call.
Trustee Williams.
Both sides.
Trustee Wilson.
Both sides.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Votes aye.
Madam Mayor, that's ordinance 2018-30.
Thank you. Okay. F2D, first, second, and third reading, an ordinance of the Village of University Park, Cook County, Illinois, amending the codified ordinances of University Park, Illinois to provide for the regulations and applications for small wireless facilities. Is there a motion? Moved by Trustee Brooks, second. Second by Trustee Wilson. Questions, concerns, comments? Can we say a little on what the wireless, I know what it is, but just for the audience, the wireless system, could you explain to?
Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance. Within this past year, the state passed a statute giving authority to municipalities within a specific time frame to pass ordinances concerning the location of wireless facilities, whether they're in the right of way or in commercial or industrial districts. This is an ordinance to give the University Park that ability and somewhat of a say into location of small wireless facilities, antennas, communication devices.
And that was something that was brought up. I brought that up from a conference that I went to, and it's very, very intense. And I'm happy that we have control because what was happening many years, few years ago, they were allowed to just do whatever they wanted when they wanted to, and put them where they wanted to without any type of approval from municipalities. So, thank you. Roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Aye.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye.
Madam Mayor, that's ordinance 2018-31.
Thank you. F2E, resolution of the University Park, Illinois, Cook County, Illinois, authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement to the effect of dissolution of the Eastern Will County Communications Center, EastCom. Is there a motion? Moved by Trustee Wilson, second. Second by Trustee Brooks. Questions, concerns, comments?
Chief, tell how much the village got back.
I want to say it's a dollar amount, about $47,000 that the village will be receiving back based on the dissolution documents of EastCom. So that's money that the village paid into Eastern Will County Communications Center that the village will be returned once the resolution is done. And I will tell you that money will probably go in a special escrow account for the board to determine the use for public safety purposes for the police department. So I want to reinvest that money back into the police department, and that's potentially to purchase even more vehicles for the police department and any other supplies that they need. So that money will be placed in escrow, and we will bring legislation to the board for approval to use that money for police department assets.
Okay, and once you do that, I would like to list it, and I'd like to see recommendations with our police department. Well, maybe we'll handle that Saturday. We'll talk about some of the issues that they would like to see that in as well, because they're out there working every day. I don't want to dictate what they should get, and I'm not out there. They know what they need best. So thank you. Roll call.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye.
Madam Mayor, that's resolution 2018-29.
Thank you very much. First, F2F, resolution of Village of University Park, Cook County, Illinois, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding by and between Robertson Engineers Ltd. And the Village of University Park for design and construction engineering services for the University Park local agency functional overlay improvements from Staker Road to Western. Is there a motion? Moved by Trustee Wilson. Second. Second by Trustee Brooks. Concerns, comments?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You recognize. previous board, we had to make some decisions on some of the roadway projects. This was one that we had to put on the back burner because we just didn't have the matching funds and couldn't foresee us having the matching funds. And I see that the engineering cost is going to be about, was it 30,000? And the project is estimated to be about 300,000, which means that the village's portion would be about 60,000. And it was mentioned also in here that perhaps the Robinson Engineering, this is the design portion of it, could be paid, be TIF eligible since this is part of the TIF district, but I don't think TIF 6 this is has $30,000 in it, does it?
At this point, TIF 6 has over $10,000 in it. And currently, Robinson Engineering is going back to South Suburban Mayor and Managers, and the mayor is aware, to try to have the match increased to a significant amount. The issue we run into here is a timing issue. First, if this is not passed, then that money would have to be forfeited and returned back, and the likelihood of the village getting any additional funding to get this project done, or any project done based on return of money, may be an issue. Secondly, this project is not set for letting until the spring of 2019. That's around April 2019 timeframe. All we're requesting at this point is just to do the basic engineering to get the project moving so we won't lose those monies. Upon the April 2019 letting, we're hopeful that the South Suburban Mayor and Managers will provide more funding to move this up. We received notification about a month ago that if the village did not move on this project, the monies will be forfeited, and the likelihood of the village getting any other fundings from this specific program will be unlikely. I think the mayor spoke on that multiple occasions, and she can kind of elaborate, Madam Mayor.
Yes, at the South Suburban Mayor Managers meeting, they talked about this, and the letting, they talked about also at the Transportation Committee meeting that I go to every first Tuesday of the month. There's a letting, and we do need to act upon this because before they did not do anything, although I spoke to it, but regardless, another blurb. But we are on it now. So hopefully we can, Robinson Engineers can work with them, South Suburban Mayor. We have to look at their budget, what piece of pie we can get. That's why it's so important that I attend all these meetings. It's tiresome. As Trustee Liz Williams always say, I know how you do it. But I'm doing it for the village, and that's what makes a difference. So we're hoping that they can do that, but most likely Robinson Engineers is very, very resourceful when it comes to helping and finding grants for us. So but hopefully this will get done.
From a priority standpoint, I never understood why they wanted to resurface this area here when we really need the resurfacing done between Cicero and the railroad tracks there, on the golf course.
No.
Is there any reason for that, or can that be another project, even though it's an interim project?
So I will tell you, upon becoming the village manager, the first project I think I worked on with the mayor as far as transportation was sending a letter to IDOT and trying to incorporate that piece of area that has not been done in the University Parkway project. The response that we received from IDOT is because we have not had enough fatalities or major incidents in that intersection that they will not be providing funding. But there's hope there because the village currently has litigation with Canadian National Railroad in regards to a fatality that happened at that crossing some years ago in regards to installing traffic lights and improving the right-of-way. And I think Attorney Watts kind of elaborated on that. That's with the Illinois Commerce Commission. So we're kind of going through the process now with the state hopefully being able to say they can provide some type of funding to get that portion done, as well as adding lights. I know we have a hearing next month where potentially we propose to put a temporary light there, but there is roadway issues as well that needs to be resolved. And just to clarify, on the Steger-Moniz Road and Western Project, the first question that was asked upon receiving notification is, can this funding be shifted to our residential streets that need resurfacing and repair? The answer was no, because this specific grant only covers major arteries that are used for intercommerce transportation, such as large trucks. So those fundings could not be shifted to Amherst or various other streets that we have that need incredible urgent repair on. So that was the first kind of avenue. So I just want to put that out to the public, because I know the minute somebody hears Stager-Monique Road to Western, they're going to say, well, why are we dealing with the residential streets? That was an option that was brought forth, and that was an option that said the money cannot be used for that, only for that section of roadway. And then Attorney Wise can speak on that section of roadway that hasn't been completed and what the process is currently in the hearing process.
The section of roadway being referred to by the village manager is at Governor's Highway, where the railroad tracks are located. The portion to the east of that, in front of Governor State University, was finished. The portion to the west of it, from I-57 coming up to almost Governor's Highway, that was also completed. This was a 2005 project, and since it involved railroad tracks, you have to go to the Illinois Commerce Commission dealing with railroad. It was initially, the project consisted, it was one project from 57 all the way to Crawford, where University Parkway turns. In 2011, maybe 2012, somewhere in that area, due to funding, they split it up into 3 segments. What happened, and where you have to determine, we're trying to determine, they finished the first segment, and then the last segment was finished off, I believe last summer they were working on it, or maybe even the spring. But that middle segment where the railroad tracks are, that was left. Now the problem is the funding aspect for that. Now there's no federal funds for it. As Manager Payne indicated, I believe Mayor Covington, they had a meeting with IDOT stating there's no funding from the state. Robinson Engineering's been working with both on the federal level and state level to see if there would be funding available to get that last portion finished off. Certain funds have been frozen at the federal level. At this juncture, because the original plans called for adding a turn lane if you're heading like westbound, at Governor's Highway, adding a left turn lane as well as a through lane, all those sorts of things. There'd have to be improvements done to the railroad tracks, the traffic control signals. It's millions of dollars to just do that one portion of the highway. At this point, based upon video review by the Illinois Commerce Commission, there have been what they classify as near misses at those railroad tracks. Cars get stopped and backed up near those railroad tracks, and the trains are still coming through. So at this juncture, the Illinois Commerce Commission is working with the village, and we're trying to work with IDOT and with the railroad. So there's 4 entities involved in this project to come up with a plan for new temporary traffic control signals where one lane of traffic may be able to go through, or right now it's a flashing red light, right? It's like a stop sign, 4-way stop, essentially. Temporary traffic control devices to help facilitate traffic through that location, as well as possibly make some improvements to the roadway as you're traveling westbound to get to the railroad tracks. The road is deteriorated greatly there. So at this juncture, we're trying to find what work needs to be done. Also, ComEd may now become involved. That hasn't been determined because they may or may not need to have to move some of their electric poles to facilitate the installation of traffic control devices. But Robinson Engineering is also looking into whether or not MFT funds could be utilized next year to resurface a portion of the roadway. At this juncture, it doesn't look like the whole project's going to be done as initially contemplated because it was millions of dollars. But we're working to getting some improvements done and getting new temporary traffic control system in place to help alleviate concerns regarding traffic and the impact of the road.
And as he told you, 2005, when I came on mayor in 2011, I was able to talk and change our engineers, and Robinson Engineers was great, and I was happy that I brought them on board, and that's when we started getting dirt moving, and the highways done, and the expressways done. And that we had to, like he said, we had to split up in 3 phases in order to get the money and the fundings and the backing for that, just like the curbs. If you see, I have a memorandum here that I shared with certain people when Dave Linton was here, and he said that we need to get these things done. It was ignored. So that was including the curbs that are currently here, and that was in 2008 that he sent that memorandum, and I got it done now. But unfortunately, they didn't get it done, but we got it done now with RTA funds. So that was done 100% with RTA funds. So I'm happy about the movement and what we're doing. There is a letting for 2019-20 for the Cicero project. So I'll be addressing that at the meeting Tuesday with the South Suburban Mayor Manager's Transportation Committee. Is there a roll call, please?
Trustee Williams. Trustee Wilson.
Both sides.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Both sides.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye. No, and thank this board for their support on all these projects too.
Madam Mayor, that's resolution 2018-30.
Thank you. F2G, we're almost finished there. Resolution of Village and University Park, Mills and Cook Counties, Illinois, authorizing the execution of the memorandum of understanding by and between the Robinson Engineers LTD and the Village and University Park for design and construction engineering services for the Industrial Drive roadway improvement. Is there a motion? So we'll move by Trustee Brooks, second. And Trustee Williams. Questions, concern? Wilson, I'm sorry.
Chief, this is that road along the side that's tore up next to Clorox, correct?
Yeah, this is Industrial Drive. So for the residents' information for the board, this is a project that's actually being coordinated between myself, the mayor, the Will County Department of Economic Development, and the businesses affected by that roadway. The businesses have agreed to put up the funds to repair that roadway themselves and receive funds back through a tax abatement over a 5-year period upon completion of the project. So this project is actually not being paid for by the village. It will be paid for based on giving a portion of the business's taxes back, the money they provide over a 5-year period of time. So just to clarify for the residents, this is not a project being paid out of general funds. This is a project being financed by the businesses at no interest to the village, which they will get their money back over a 5-year period of time upon project completion.
Who owns that sign, Industrial? Because we have 2 over there, if I'm not mistaken. We have one right there on Industrial, and then we have that one right there as you come eastbound, when you get off I-57, we have it on the corner, and we have the beautiful, well, it was beautiful, University Park, but looks like the U and the P somehow done fell out.
I want to say we own those signs. Those signs we own for the industrial park identification.
Well, can we get, when they fix that, can we kind of get that tidied up or something?
Director Richardson?
Been like that for long.
Yeah, it looks horrible.
You're talking about the tall ones?
Yeah, the tall, skinny signs. I know we got 2 over in
We
Industrial
look
Park.
to cut those down.
Why?
And, well, they're not operational anymore.
Okay.
And that company is no longer there. I'm not sure the name of the company that was on that corner, but it's on their property. So once we take it out, they want us to remove all the electrical, all of everything, and we just have not crossed that bridge.
Director Richardson.
That's a good
Director
question.
Richardson, question for you. I think before we do that, I'm seeing some faces on the board. Is there any way to recover that sign and kind of get it rehabbed and working again prior to cutting it down? Because I know that's probably going to address some questions that members of the board may have at this point. I want to make sure we properly look at this matter and then give the board advisement before we do anything drastic.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because, if anything, if you're just going to take it and move it, it'll be nice to put it. I know we own only we have the new welcome sign as we go east on the 335, coming off the 337, but I mean, we can at least put use to it and at least repair the one that I noticed on the other side. But I know that road is horrible, and I know it does need to be done, but I just want to know what we're going to do with the sign.
So speaking of the welcome sign, the mayor has brought up concerns in regards to the sign's placement. A part of the TIF 7 study will be the businesses that develop on that land near that area to provide fundings for a actual larger sign to be placed there for a Welcome to University Park sign based on the mayor's vision of the design that needs to be done. So there are a lot of kind of plans that we have in place in order to deal with the sign in that area. The mayor has adamantly expressed her concerns in regards to the sign's condition, the sign not having power, and providing a larger sign to kind of introduce that exit, in a more proper manner. A couple issues we deal with as far as the signage is dealing with the Illinois Department of Transportation's easement, where we would like the sign to be in the middle of the roadway, runs into the easement of the Illinois Department of Transportation. So after speaking to the village engineer, we would have to request special permission to use or place signage at that point. And I think the mayor can kind of elaborate where she wants the signage at, but we're kind of going to end up scrapping and revamping that whole plan based on the mayor's wishes.
So the businesses are going to pay for this, so the TIF, the project's not eligible for any TIF funds?
Those businesses are not even in the TIF. They're not TIF 5 at all.
All right.
That was the first option, and then we discovered none of the businesses were in the TIF.
And IBEW has been very, very nice about hitting it up. Okay, roll call. Excuse me, roll call, please.
Trustee Williams.
Aye.
Trustee Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Brooks.
Both sides.
Trustee McMullen.
Stepped up.
Trustee Payton.
Aye.
And Mayor Covington.
Aye.
Madam Mayor, that is Resolution 2018-31.
Okay. F. 2H, resolution of University Park, Will and Cook Counties, Illinois, authorizing and approving the acquisition of the copiers, printers, and accessories of the execution of a lease and maintenance agreement with Renco USA, Inc. Is there a motion? So moved. Moved by Trustee Brooks. Second.
Second.
Second by